Hello and welcome. So today I thought I would do a quick tutorial on how to join the Mafia City Roleplay server for new players or people that haven't maybe played on RP servers before or used the Rage client. So starting off, what you're going to want to be able to do, again, this guide is not going to be for people who are already on the server or people who have played on it before. It's going to be just for new players, hopefully show you guys how to do kind of some of the stuff that you were questioning or some stuff that you maybe not have known, or maybe just show you the server in general. So what you're going to do to start off is go over to the link in the description for the Rage client. You're going to want to download that real quick, open it up. I think it might have to download some stuff at the start, but it shouldn't be too much. And after you have it opened up, you're going to want to go, or at least I'll show you guys how it looks right now. So this is how the client looks. So we have home, servers, direct connect, settings, about us, and support. We don't have to really worry about anything besides the servers and the direct connect. So if we go over to the servers, you can see a bunch of different servers here again. If you do want to join the Mafia City RP server, I definitely recommend sorting by players, and it's usually pretty high up there. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. So it's voice only roleplay, Mafia City Roleplay. So if you want to join it this way, you can. It's pretty much easier, depending on what you really, if you want to have to look for it each time or not. All you have to do is just left click it and it will join. It will download a bunch of different files while you're joining, and then you most likely will have to restart the first time that you join the server, and then it should be good after that. Or you can go over to Direct Connect, which is what I do because it's a lot easier. And this IP right here is the current IP for the server. I'm not exactly sure if this will change in the future, but if it does, it should be updated in the description of the current IP, and the IP will be in the description if you want to just copy and paste it over into your client. And then after that, you're going to want to hit connect, and it will bring up the server. Again, the same way that you did with the servers, it will download a bunch of stuff if it's your first time joining. You're going to have to quickly restart after all of the packages are downloaded, and then it's going to take you over to the account creation. You're going to want to create an account real quick, and then it's going to take you over to your character creation after you fill out a quiz, and I'll meet you guys over there. Alright. So after you get in game, you have to do a quick quiz, which hopefully you guys will know the rules for. Again, the rules will be linked on the page in the description on the Mafia City RP website. I'll put a link directly to the rules, so you can just click on that, read them, make sure you know everything before you take the quiz. But after you're done taking the quiz, you'll be brought to this screen where you basically have to create your character. I'm not going to do too much creation because this is just going to be a test character, but there's a couple different options. You can obviously do what male you want to be, male or female, and then change the mom and dad, and then change the resemblance towards either one. And then there's also head, so you can change your hair, beard, eyebrows, stuff like that, etc. Basically just all things that you would look for when you're wanting to customize your character. So it's pretty interesting. Again, we're not going to go too much into this just because this is more for if you want to stay and create a character. This is just going to be a test. You're going to want to put in your name and make sure your name is not either a celebrity name or just a name that wouldn't make sense. So for instance, we're just going to do Bill Weathers. So it's just a random name. So then we go into create character. It's just this right here. Hit create, and it should bring you into the world. It'll bring this up, which is actually pretty helpful. I recommend reading it. I'm not going to go through the whole thing during this tutorial, but it definitely provides a lot of info for the different keys you're going to need to use during game. So I definitely recommend actually reading this. And then when you're done reading it, click the X up here, and if you want to bring that up again, you just simply hit F4. And it will bring up the introduction tutorial, which gives you all a bunch of different commands, and gives you a pretty good intro. So I definitely recommend reading this if you're new to the servers or new to RP servers in general. It really does help out a lot, especially learning all of the keybinds. And then once you spawn in, you're going to have $2,500 on you, as you can see in the bottom right. Or if we go into our inventory, we can see that we have $2,500 in our bank. From here, pretty much any of the choices you want to do are up to you. Now, since this is a starting guide, I'm going to say basically what I think is the best way to start out. But again, it's kind of whatever you really want to do or whatever you really want to RP. But if we were starting out, I definitely recommend going over to the DMV up here or renting something over here and driving over to it. Again, you don't really have to spend the money on a rental right off the bat. So I definitely recommend just running over instead of spending your starting cash on a rental. And it just takes a couple of minutes. So we're going to run all the way over to this little paper looking thing, which is the DMV, and I'll meet you guys once we're over there. Alright, so we're at the DMV. So what you want to do is go over to this white circle, hit Y on it, and it'll bring up a quick menu. Now here you're able to read the laws and regulations, which I definitely recommend reading. So it basically gives you most of the stuff you need to know for the quiz. And then after you're done with that, go over to take the driver's basic knowledge exam, which I believe is $500, $400. And then after you take the driver's basic knowledge exam, you're going to have to take a driven test. And after you take the driven test, you're going to be able to get your license. Actually, I'll just go do it real quick, or I'll at least get the text-based one done, and then I'll show you guys the different licenses you can buy and which ones I think you should start out buying. Because again, $2,500 on the server is really not a lot. It's going to go by pretty fast, as you will see. But we're gonna go take I'm gonna go take the quiz and everything off camera real quick, and then I'll show you guys the different types of licenses and which ones you should get. And I will be back in just a second. Alright, so I quickly completed the road test, or I completely completed the text-based test. And from here you can take either your basic driver's license, your motorcycle license, or your trucker and CDL license. Now, each one of these is $500 each, and even though you only start, or at this point you're only going to be at $2,100, I definitely recommend getting at least your driver's license and your trucker's license, because currently, as the point of this uploading of this video, trucking is one of the best paying jobs, and I think it will continue to be, just because you do need a license and it does take a decent amount of work. But I definitely recommend getting your license from over here, and then either taking a rental that you would have bought earlier, or not bought earlier if you wanted to save a little bit of money, and came over to the truckers and started trucking for a bit. Is definitely a good way to start off. Now, I did make a video which should be popping up in the top right now, explaining the different kinds of starting jobs. Now, the money that you make from each starting job is a little bit outdated, but the tutorial is basically the same. So if you want to go check that out, see how to do the basic starter jobs, definitely recommend doing that. But I definitely recommend, again, if you're starting off, to start with the trucker yard. And now there's just a couple more things I wanted to go through for new players. So as you can see over here, there's a bunch of questions being asked. You can actually access that chat by doing /n. So if you do have some questions about different parts of the server, it definitely helps out. And if you don't want to show up anymore, do /tog n and then chat, and it will disable it or re-enable it if you want to. So that's basically that. Now the next thing that you're going to want to focus on after getting your license and getting a little bit of money is most likely going to be buying your first car. And to do this, you just basically go over to one of the dealerships. Currently, I believe only Motorsport at the time of this video has stuff in stock. And go over there, buy a car, and try and do stuff with that. Again, that's going to be basically just my opinion on the first stuff you should focus on, is either a car or a cheap vehicle. Now, every once in a while, there are dealerships that have like Warners and such for very cheap, and I definitely recommend getting one of those for a starting vehicle, and you should see some ads for them every once in a while. But that's going to be about it for starting out completely. I think we're going to go on to a different point, and I'll meet up with you guys in just a second. Alright, so the next thing I figured we would talk about a little bit is going to be the main menu you're going to be using for most of your interactions on the server. So if you go and hit B on your keyboard, it should bring up this little menu. I did go over this a bit in another video, which I will also link right now, hopefully if I can. But basically the ones that you're going to have to focus on being a new player is going to be mostly this player menu. So if you go over to, again, hit B to bring this menu up, and B again to close it if you want. So hit it again. Bring it up, and if you go over to the player menu, this is where most of the interactions you have with other players are going to be taking place with this menu. So for example, if you want to give money to someone, you stand next to them, hit give money, yada yada. Pretty a little bit self-explanatory. It does bring up an ID just to make sure you don't give it to the wrong person. So say I wanted to give money to, let's say, character ID 1, and I wanted to give him $1, I'd do that and send. If he was next to me, I'd be able to do that. So that's going to be pretty much it for the giving money. It's pretty much that simple. It's not hard at all. The next thing we're going to go on to is licenses. If you want to show an officer your licenses or show someone else your licenses, just make sure you're near them. And then go into this menu, hit show licenses, and it should show it to them. Walking styles, again, not too important, but you can change how you walk. So if you want to walk like this, we can. Or you can change basically exactly how you want your character kind of to behave and walk like, which is kind of interesting. The next big thing is going to definitely be aliasing people, because that's gonna be how you're gonna remember people's names. Because in general, people are going to be walking around with a big white text that will say stranger and then a long digit. And the last 2 digits at the end, or the last 1 digit in brackets, is going to be that person's ID, and you use this ID to alias people, give them money, and basically for all of the interactions with other players on the server is going to be all maintained by that ID. So if we go into the F3 menu, you're able to see players online and also their IDs. This is very important because the only ID that you really have to worry about at the start, at least, is going to be your own, which you should be able to see. Let me find it real quick. Alright, so this is our name. So we're Bill Weathers. We're ID 83. So again, that's not super useful right now, but the IDs and knowing people's names is going to be very useful in the future for doing a bunch of different stuff. Anything from giving money to someone to having their alias or such like that, to make sure you remember their name. So the IDs are very important. Again, they do show up above players' heads in game, so it makes it pretty easy to do. So say I saw someone with the ID of 22, and I talk to him, I say, hey, how's it going? We exchange names and stuff, and say his name's Joe. What I'm going to do is hit B, go to the player menu, alias, and then say 20, and then his alias would be Joe. And then if I do that, he is then aliased, and then if we do look in the F3 menu, it's going to be a random person aliased, but now we can see his name finally, Joe. So that's pretty much the key feature you're going to need to learn on the server, because that's how you're going to be able to remember people's names, because it's a bit hard to remember people by their voice and look sometimes. So it definitely helps out a lot. The next big portion I wanted to go over for starting players is that the jobs that you see on the map, which are the fishing, logging, trucking, mineral transport, and I believe that's it, and the dumpster job, are not all the jobs that are in the game or on the server. There's actually hidden jobs, such as illegal ones, which would be drug making or drug manufacturing and selling it to either players or NPCs. You can be a police officer, you can be in government, you can be EMS, so there's definitely a whole range of stuff, and I definitely recommend going onto the forums, which will also be linked in the description, looking through there and kind of seeing kind of what you would want to do on the server, what you want your character to be like, kind of the story behind your character and such like that. There's also a bunch of cool stuff on there to check out, such as character introductions and basically other people's stories or other stories of gangs in the city and kind of the lore behind them. So it's really interesting. I definitely recommend checking out the forums, and it really does add to the whole sense of a community, or actually having the sense of a city. For sure, again, especially because at the beginning here, you're not going to be able to know many people, you're not going to be interacting with a ton of people, so it's really good to go onto the forums and kind of get the idea of the city, get the idea of the citizens, and kind of get an idea of the whole server in general. Now, again, if you want to work for either of the government factions, such as EMS, police, or the government, you're going to have to go onto the forums, and there should be a way to apply on there. Again, I'm going to be showing you some of this on screen right now, so hopefully it's going to be a little bit easier for you to understand. But in the description of this video should be the link to the forums, and I definitely recommend just exploring it a bit yourself. It's really entertaining, really interesting to definitely look through it all. I definitely recommend taking some time before you get too much into playing and grinding out money at the beginning to kind of focus on RP and what you want to do as your character. I think that's going to be about it for this video. Again, I just wanted this video to be a short introduction to how to join the server, some of the starting guides, kind of what the idea of the server is, kind of what you can do on it if you really want to, because again, not everything is really shown, because you can do anything from money laundering to drug smuggling to drug growing to pretty much anything you want to do, as long as it makes sense RP-wise. Again, not everything's implemented at the moment of this video, like there are not some store robberies or there's not bank heists yet. But the dev team for the server is very good. They've been updating the server almost pretty much twice or 3 times a day, fixing bugs and such. So as the server grows and develops, it's going to be changing a lot, and there's going to be a lot more features. But that's going to be about it for a new player. That's pretty much all you're going to have to know. You will definitely find out a lot more by talking to other people and interacting and just having a good time. But I think that's going to be about it. The only lasting word of advice I can give to new people on the server is try not to focus on money and getting good and winning too much. Try and have some fun, try and have some good RP, and try and make some new friends. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully, if you're a new player, this has helped you out a little bit. And if it did, please leave a like. And if you want to, subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.